Yesterday I left off at the middle of Genesis chapter 18. In the last verse there, Sarah was afraid, so she denied it, saying, I didn't laugh. But the Lord said, no, you did not. You did laugh, as he read her mind. So all of a sudden in Genesis 18, the story ends with respect to Abram becoming Abraham, Sarai becoming Sarah. And it automatically takes us into a totally different path. Okay? Then the men got up from their meal, looked out towards Sodom. As they left, Abraham went with them to send them on their way. Should I hide my plan from Abraham? The Lord asked. Who did the Lord ask? The other two. Should I hide my plan from Abraham? The Lord asked. For Abraham will certainly become a great and mighty nation, because God is going to make it so. And all the nations of the earth will be blessed through him. I have singled him out so that he will direct his sons and their families to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just. What is the way of the Lord? Doing what is right and just. Righteousness is key. Then I will do for Abraham all that I have promised. What's the prerequisite? Doing what is right and just. Then I will do for Abraham all that I have promised. There is an if there. Okay, there is a prerequisite, something that Abraham and his folks, his family, has to do. Then he's going to do for Abraham all that God has promised. So the Lord told Abraham, I have heard a great outcry from Sodom and Gomorrah because their sin is so flagrant. I am going down to see if their actions are as wicked as I have heard. If not, I want to know. Again, we see God's personality, God's ways in the very first book of the Bible. God is still testing. God has heard, he says he has heard that the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah, their sin is so great that he has heard that it's unbearably high. Okay? And he's come down to see, presumably obviously from heaven, he's come down to earth to see what's going on himself. To see what's going on in Sodom and Gomorrah, because things have gone completely out of whack. Remember, time has passed since Noah, but not that much time. So what has gone? Remember, the Lord cleaned up this place. Okay, he cleaned it up. There was Noah and his families. So what's going on? What happened? Something's up at Sodom and Gomorrah. And it's so bad that it warrants the Lord to come down from heaven to himself see, is it really this bad? He's still testing. God is still testing. The other men, this is going to become key as we get to chapter 19. The other men, underline the word men, turned and headed towards Sodom. But the Lord remained with Abraham. So there is three of them. Abraham called them all Lord, all three together Lord. But look at this distinction in this verse, in verse 22. The other men turned and headed towards Sodom, but the Lord remained with Abraham. I'm going to continue. I'm going to cover this again as we get to chapter 19. Abraham approached him and said, will you sweep away both the righteous and the wicked? Now, I want to bring something up here. Is Abraham here talking about Christians, Methodists, Lutherans, Protestants, Presbyterians, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists? No. He's talking about righteous and wicked. Righteous and wicked. Suppose this is Abraham's way, all right? Now, only a friend of God can get away with what's going to happen next, okay? Because if you and I did this, would be like toast, okay? Suppose you find 50 righteous people living there in the city. Will you still sweep it away and not spare it for their sakes? Surely you wouldn't do such a thing. This is Abraham speaking to God. Destroying the righteous along with the wicked. Why? You would be treating the righteous and the wicked exactly the same. Surely you wouldn't do that. Should not the judge of all the earth do what is right? Whoa, Abraham. And the Lord replied, if I find 50 righteous people in Sodom, I will spare the entire city for their sake. That's really deep, guys. Sometimes we see wickedness all around us. And we wonder why they're surviving. Why, is God still blessing them? You've got mobsters that are getting richer and buying their 7th property. They've got a yacht. Why? Why are they still making it? Right? For the sake of the righteous, God hasn't destroyed it. For the sake of the righteous. There's got to be somebody around them, in their family, someone who's righteous, and God is still being merciful to these people. And hopefully they turn around and give their lives to God. Then Abraham spoke again. Good old Abraham, friend of God. Since I have begun, let me speak further to my Lord. Even though I am but dust and ashes. He realizes we're all dust and ashes. He admits that right off the bat, and yet he's still speaking. Suppose there are only 45 righteous people rather than 50. Will you destroy the whole city for the lack of 5? So Abraham is negotiating with the Lord. He's saying, Lord, okay, I said 50 before, but right now I'm talking about 45 righteous people, 45, 5 less people. But again, the Bible is saying this not to be comedic. They're saying it, in my opinion, for a couple of reasons. One would be to show the relationship that God had with Abraham and the relationship that Abraham enjoyed with God. He is the friend of God. So he's being allowed. He's not, I don't want to say allowed, but he's being allowed to speak like this. Okay? Who are we to speak like this? Okay? But apparently Abraham is okay to speak like this because he has a special relationship with God. A very unique one. Okay? But the key here is the word righteous. The key isn't the numbers, the 50, the 45, and he's going to keep negotiating as I read here. It's not about the actual numbers. It's about the keyword righteous. This is how important righteousness is to God. God is holy and wants us to be like his son, the example that he gave to us, the Lord Yeshua Christ. And the Lord said, I will not destroy it if I find 45 righteous people there. Then Abraham pressed his request further. Suppose there are only 40. I can only imagine how he's asking this question. Suppose there are only 40. And the Lord replied, I will not destroy it for the sake of the 40. Please don't be angry, my Lord. Abraham pleaded. Let me speak. Suppose only 30 righteous people are found. 30 righteous people are found. And the Lord replied, I will not destroy it if I find 30. Then Abraham said, since I have dared to speak to the Lord. Now the word is making it clear. Abraham is literally daring here. At this point, he's like right on the edge. Okay? He's looking down a 1,000,000-foot drop. Okay? Since I have dared to speak to the Lord, let me continue. Suppose there are only 20. And the Lord replied, then I will not destroy it for the sake of the 20. Look at the patience of the Lord. Look at the patience. If you as a human being were being questioned like this, you'd be like, enough, right? How many times are you going to ask me? Enough. But look at the patience of God. This is God Almighty being patient with a little ant. Okay? That's what he's doing. Finally, Abraham said, Lord, please don't be angry with me. Let me speak one more time. Just one more time. Suppose only 10 are found there. 10! And the Lord replied, then I will not destroy it for the sake of the 10. When the Lord had finished his conversation with Abraham, finally, He went on his way, and Abraham returned to his tent. So Abraham knew not to proceed any further. He knew to go back to his tent. He begged and pleaded with God, and God, because he is merciful and loving and patient, allowed him to speak like this. Okay? He was pleading for the righteous. Abraham wasn't pleading for the unrighteous. Remember, he's got some skin in the game, if you will. Abraham's family's there. Lot, his nephew, and Lot's family's there. And so he knows Sodom and Gomorrah is the place where Lot is. And so he's like, please, Lord, like he's not mentioning Lot per se, but the Lord knows exactly what he's talking about. Okay? He knows that Abraham's concern right now is his family, his nephew. He knows his nephew's a righteous man. He knows he's not wicked like the rest of them. He's been mixed up in that area, but he's not like them. And so when the Lord had finished his conversation with Abraham, he went on his way, and Abraham returned to his tent. All right, let's go to 19. Now, I noted that I wanted to cover this word men here. Then the men got up in verse 16. Now we're in chapter 19, okay? That evening, the two angels break. What? Angels? Then the men got up from their meal, and then the men got up from their meal. We're in chapter 18, verse 16. Then the men got up from their meal and looked out towards Sodom. As they left, Abraham went with them to send them on their way. And the Lord, what did he do? He stayed a little bit behind so he could talk to Abraham. So there's two men who head towards Sodom. Wait. That evening, the two angels came to the entrance of the city of Sodom. What? Now here's what the skeptics will do. Because they read this like one would read a regular piece of literature written by some man or some woman, okay, with a fancy PhD under his name or behind his name, they look at it and go, "Pah! Look at this! 2 seconds ago, in just the previous chapter, it was men. All of a sudden, it's angels. Obviously, this thing is full of errors." Okay? This is how the skeptic will approach it. Because remember, whatever hat you put on, that's exactly what you're going to spew out of your mouth. Because if you put on the thought of, I'm going to try to find mistakes you will immediately find. God gives it to you. He literally will give it to you to test you. And you will fall for that because that's what you wanted to do. Just like Eve wanted to actually take a bite from the knowledge from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. She didn't do it until something came out of it and brought it out. But she had it in her because when she was questioned about it, about what trees she can and cannot eat, she didn't say anything about the tree of life that was planted in the middle of the garden right next to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The only thought that she was having was a negative and evil one because she was told not to do something and now she wanted to do it because she's like, what happens on the other side of me doing it? Okay? It's the same thing. If you read this and say, I've got it, let me show you what the Bible is actually doing. First, let me ask you one question. Do you remember what happened on the mountain when Jesus was transfigured? When the Lord Yeshua was transfigured and he was shown like a light that almost blinded the disciples that were with him? The insider disciples that were with him? Jesus the man did not look like a man. He was transfigured. In fact, another time, the Lord Yeshua, Jesus, when he was walking on the water, what did the disciples say? They thought it was a ghost. It didn't even look like him. Okay? Because they thought they're seeing a ghost, but it was the Lord. And as he got closer, they're like, oh, no, that's the Lord. He changed again. Okay? It's the same thing. While they were walking and they're communicating in chapter 18 with Abraham, and in at least a couple of different instances, they're speaking, all three, quote unquote, men, are speaking in one voice to Abraham. Okay, so they're all speaking basically concurrently. All of a sudden, they've become angels. Now you see them for who they are. Did not the Lord Yeshua say, be careful who you reject when they're asking you for help, because you may end up rejecting an angel. but that you thought was a man. Maybe you thought that person was a homeless person. Maybe that's the appearance they wanted you to think they have, but they're not. They're actually angels. They are pretending they are. That's their cover. Okay, they're pretending to be human, but they're not. Because they are doing what? Testing us. God tests everything. Everything. Every human, every creation. He tested the earth, the sky, the moon, the sun, the stars, the insects, me and you. We're all going to be tested. Over and over again. Every time he gives us something new, expect a test. Okay? Expect a test, because you could fall. You could really mess up. Expect a test. Never forget, a test is around the corner. A test is around the corner. Pass the test, you get something, another blessing, hopefully. I don't make the decisions. Hopefully you get another blessing. And in that blessing, there could be a test. So be careful. Be careful. Don't mess up. Keep at it all the way. This is the road that we're going to be on until we get to see him, hopefully, one day face to face in heaven. That's how it's going to be the rest of our lives. Okay? That's how it's going to be. Because look, we have it in front of us. Abraham is still getting tested left and right all the time. And he's a friend of God. Okay? That's what we know about him. All right, so all of a sudden, the men that Abraham was entertaining, and by the way, Abraham knew there was something special about these three men, because he just threw himself at their feet and worshiped them. You and I wouldn't just see some guy or three dudes and just like throw ourselves on the floor and start worshiping them unless we knew something about them. We had a sense, or we saw something different, or we felt something different, or maybe you can hear, I don't know what happened. I have no idea. I don't want to guess or speculate as to how Abraham knew these three were different than other men that he would have seen. And he immediately started to worship them on his hands and knees. But he knew. Somehow, some way, he knew. And the two men, because remember the Lord is still behind because he was talking to Abraham. These two men have become all of a sudden angels. So their appearance has changed. Now, who are these three? So the representation there is pretty clear, right? The representation is God representing himself in his three different manifestations as the Father, sort of like the brain, the Son, sort of the Word, right? And the Holy Spirit, the triune God, right? Being represented as one because they're speaking as one. Another interpretation would be, or another viewpoint would be, that the Lord is actually the Lord Yeshua Christ, and the two angels are just angels that serve him. Perhaps they're archangels, perhaps they're insider angels, meaning they're closer to the Lord than the other angels, and these are the ones that go with them. Or it could just be they're not insider angels. What they are is simply just the ones who are going to take care of what is going to happen next. Okay, so let's read up. That evening, the two angels, all right, now that evening, by the way, so time has passed. They walked all the way from wherever Abraham was near his tent, and they've walked to Sodom. So the entrance of the city of Sodom came to the entrance. Lot, this is the one Abraham was worried about, his nephew. Lot was sitting there, and when he saw them, he stood up to meet them. Now, they have a different representation of themselves now. Okay? They've made it known at this point that they're angels. Perhaps their faces are shining. We saw that in the Bible also, Moses' face was shining after he had the conversation with God. So it could be that their faces were shining, or they had some sort of different appearance about them, but Lot knew also that they're different. Lot was sitting there, and when he saw them, he stood up to meet them. Then he welcomed them, and how do we know that Lot knows that they're different? And bowed with his face to the ground. All right? My lords, further evidence, he said, come to my home, wash your feet. Again, you see the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. In this case, he's not exactly a child of Abraham's, but that's his nephew, right? And so look, in the same family, okay, the same bloodline, if you will, look what he says. Come to my home, wash your feet. Okay, look at the service, right off the bat, that humility. Wash your feet and be my guests for the night, okay? You may then get up early in the morning and be on your way again. Much like Abraham. Abraham did more, right? Abraham was like running around and trying to get, the bread taken care of. He got the calf taken care of. He got the yogurt, the milk. He got this whole setup immediately, right? He didn't, at least so far, Lot hasn't gone that far, but you're going to see what Lot is going to do. Oh no, they replied. We'll just spend the night out here in the city square. Now remember I said earlier, I said homeless, right? The angels appearing to be homeless. Look at this. Oh no, they replied. We'll just spend the night out here in the city square. So where? Like on the street? Yeah, on the street. They're angels, like the cold or the elements, the heat, whatever the situation may be, whatever weather conditions they find themselves in, is irrelevant to them. They don't get hungry. They have no pain. You can't cut them. They can't sleep on like a pebble that's going to bother them. They feel no pain. So none of that stuff matters. Okay, they can be out in the street, no problem. Okay, so we'll just spend the night out here in the city square. So the way they're replying to him is like, well, what's the difference between me or us staying in the city square and in your house? How is that going to make me feel any different? Okay, it's still the same. To an angel who has no pain, okay, who has the weather elements that have zero impact on them. So they're like, what's the problem? We'll just hang out here in the middle of the city square. But Lot insisted. So at last they went home with him. They're nice. They're like, okay, that's what you want. We'll do that. And look, Lot prepared a feast for them, complete with fresh bread made without yeast, and they ate. Okay. Again, the Bible goes to the extent to tell us, the Word of God, the Holy Spirit, is going to an extent to tell us, you have to do stuff for God. Okay. You have to show honor for God, to God. You can't just like have words. That's not enough. You can't just have pleasantries. You do that with regular human beings. You got to go above and beyond, do something good for God. Okay. Complete with fresh bread made like, now, honestly, they don't need to eat. They're eating as a courtesy. Okay, so they're eating just to say, okay, you invited us, because look, they were just saying, what are you talking about? We'll spend it right here at the city square. Okay, we're fine right here. And so he's showing them respect and love. Lot is showing them respect and love. But before they retired for the night, all the men of Sodom, young and old, came from all over the city and surrounded the house. Now, what did these young and old men want from these angels? They shouted to Lot, where are the men? Angels? Men? All of a sudden, they're men again. Why? Because my guess would be they changed their appearance again the moment they were seen by others. Anyone outside of Lot saw them, boom, their appearance changes again, back to men. Where are the men who came to spend the night with you? Bring them out to us so we can do what? Look at this disgustingness. Though we can have sex with them. There was nobody else left. They saw two men. That's it. They wanted to have sex with them. We can have sex with them. Imagine Lot right now. Imagine if you're Lot. You have angels in your house. You know that they're angels. Okay? And this is what they're saying. They're saying they want to have sex with them. So Lot doesn't know what to do, but he's like, I'm going to confront this as best as I can. So Lot stepped outside to talk to them, shutting the door behind him. It's like, I'll take care of this, okay? Please, my brothers, he begged, please, my brothers, don't do such a wicked thing. Look, I have 2 virgin daughters. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do with them as you wish. Lot is saying, I'll sacrifice my family, my daughters who are virgins. I'll give them to you. Just please don't do this. Basically Lot is saying, do you understand who these guys are? They're not men. Okay, Lot knows this. They represent, these 2 are from God. He's like, just take anything, but don't do this. My guess here is Lot was worried that the angels would have destroyed every human, every man and every boy that was there, that was asking for sex, would have been dead and gone. Okay? So Lot's like, that's why he's calling them my brothers, like, please listen to me. He's begging them. Don't do this. You don't know what you're doing. Just look. Just see how extreme I'm going to go right now. Take these 2 daughters of mine. They're virgins. Take them. Do with them what you want. Just please. He's basically saying, I can't even say the words, but he's saying, like, do with them what I'm not even going to say the word. That's how bad it is. But I think you understand what the word is. He's saying, do whatever you want with these 2 that are daughters of mine. And they're virgins. They're clean virgins. Do whatever you want. Just please Brothers, please listen to me. Take these. Look at how much love Lot is demonstrating for God. And that is Lot's test. That is Lot's test. That is why they were even there to even talk to him. There were no mistakes. There is no accident. Everything is deliberate. God is a genius to the power of infinity. There are no mistakes. There are no accidents. It's all deliberate. They wanted to test Lot to see how far he would go. Once the test is done, let's see what happens next. Leave these men alone, for they are my guests and under my protection. Okay? Stand back, they shouted. All right? There's a bunch of them. Lot can't take all these guys on. This fellow came to town as an outsider. They're referencing Lot. And now he's acting like our judge. He's telling us what we're doing is wrong. Okay? Because see, he didn't technically say, Lot didn't say what you're doing is wrong. But it's beyond clear the implication that Lot is saying, look, take my daughters and do whatever you want with them. They're virgins. But leave these two guys alone. Meaning, you're in the wrong, guys, men and boys who are trying to have sex with these two angels. You are in the wrong. That's what he's saying. So all of a sudden, they're getting mad. See? They know. What he's acting, Lot is acting like our judge. Well, look at what they say. We'll treat you far worse than those other men. They're talking about the two angels. And they lunged toward Lot to break down the door. Because Lot is standing right in front of the door and they jumped him. Lot didn't back down, but he's standing in front of the door. Okay, he's doing the best that he can. It's one man against a bunch of men and boys. But the angels had seen enough. But the two angels reached out, so they opened the door. I'm assuming they opened the door. For all I know, they could have gone through the door, their hands. Okay, not breaking it, literally just moving through the door. Okay, reached out, pulled Lot into the house and bolted the door. And they locked the door. Then they blinded all the men, young and old, who were at the door of the house. So they gave up trying to get inside. The angels took away the problem. The problem was they were using their eyes to lust. They were lusting after men. These men were lusting after men in Sodom and Gomorrah. So what the angels did is they just simply blinded them. When the ability for them to see was gone, they lost all sense of lust that they had. It was gone, completely gone. Okay, so they left. Meanwhile, the angels questioned Lot. Do you have any other relatives here in the city? They asked. Get them out of this place. Your sons-in-law, sons, daughters, or anyone else. Meaning, look, if you can vouch for everyone, anyone, we don't care who it is. If you're vouching for them, get them out of here. For we are about to destroy this city completely. They've seen enough. Okay? That's all they needed to see. They didn't even know these people. They immediately tried to have sex with them. Okay? For we are about to destroy this city completely. They're not kidding. Completely. Like nothing will remain. The outcry against this place is so great, it has reached the Lord. And He has sent us to destroy it. Look at this. Now, what is this outcry? All right? Because I don't have a very clear answer to this other than to assume that the thoughts that we're having, humans are having, reaches God instantly. And when it reaches a level where God is completely disturbed and angered by how much sin and how much evil thoughts are in the hearts, meaning in the minds of men and women, He now acts. He waits. He's very patient. But when He's looking at, he even tested this very minute. He tested it. He sent two angels to see what's going to happen. He tested that. They wanted to have sex with the angels too. Okay, so He knows what to do next. So Lot rushed out to tell his daughters, fiancés, quick, get out of the city. The Lord is about to destroy it. But the young men thought he was only joking. All right. This happens in today's society, right? Somebody says, hey, guys, don't sin. And he becomes the fool. Hey, guys, don't be lustful. He becomes the fool. hey guys, don't do wrong, he becomes the fool. Right? People laugh at him. At dawn the next morning, the angels became insistent. Hurry, they said to Lot. Take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here. Get out right now, or you will be swept away in the destruction of the city. So now they're on a clock. Okay? There's a particular time. There's an order that's been given. They need to be wiped out, and this is the time. You got to get out now. Okay? When Lot still hesitated, the angels seized his hand and the hands of his wife and 2 daughters and rushed them to safety outside the city. So kicking and screaming, if necessary, they're gone because they don't want to touch them. They were tested and they were proven to be righteous. For the Lord was merciful. The Lord had mercy on the righteous. This is all over the Bible. If you're righteous, expect mercy from God. That's his promise. When they were safely out of the city, one of the angels ordered, run for your lives and don't look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the mountains or you will be swept away. What is being described here, guys, they didn't have the technology to be able to do back in that time. It's impossible. Okay? What they're talking about is a fire that is going to sweep such a large area of land, such a massive area of land, that if they don't run to the mountains, they too can get killed, Lot and his daughters. Oh no, my Lord, Lot begged. You have been so gracious to me and saved my life, and you have shown such great kindness. But I cannot go to the mountains. Disaster would catch up to me there, and I would soon die. See, there's a small village nearby. Please let me go there instead. Don't you see how small it is? Then my life will be saved. All right, the angel said, I will grant your request. I will not destroy the little village, but hurry, escape to it, for I can do nothing until you arrive there. This explains why that village was known as Zor, which means little place. I'm going to stop here, and I'll continue from verse 21, verse 23 in the next video. But I just want to say, what a great God we serve. And as I'm studying the book of Genesis, I mean, are we living in very different times than what Lot experienced in Sodom and Gomorrah? Or are the people of our generation not obsessed with sex? I mean, they've put sex on the utmost highest pedestal. Have we not? Isn't it all over the place? I mean, all over the place, in every way we turn, everywhere you look. On Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, TikTok, anywhere you look. YouTube, you name it. Search for it, it's all there. Go outside your house, it's everywhere. We have become obsessed with sex. That's what we've become. Obsessed with sex. Now, I don't know if that was the primary reason why the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah were so much that God wanted to destroy the whole thing. I don't know. All I know is the facts that I read. I'm welcome to speculate as long as I don't say anything that opposes something else in the Bible. But, I mean, it's important enough for the Bible to mention that. It's important enough to mention that there were men, young, I don't know how young, 15, 16, 17, I don't know, boys, I have no idea, and old. When we think of old men, right, we think of the gray hair, wisdom, right? They speak slowly, they're patient, they're kind. We don't expect this. We don't expect old men to be wanting to have sex with a couple of strangers that they saw who also happen to be men. And in this case, happen to be angels. That's not normal. Okay? So the sin, the obsession with sex had become so great that God patient, loving, kind God who's merciful over and over and over and over and over again, saw no way out other than destroy the whole thing. And it's funny, his name is Lot, and God destroyed the entire lot of them, except Lot, in Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot and his family. In fact, his own wife. Anyway, we'll get to that in another video. But that's what happens. This is something that we have to be careful about, I think, as Christians. That, look, God made sex. He ordained sex. He said a man should marry a woman and procreate. And the mechanism there is sex. Okay? Sex is fine. Between married couples, wonderful. Enjoy. Okay? But there is a limit to everything. Everything has its purpose. When you go past the purpose, it becomes useless. And when it becomes useless, I mean, there's nothing left for it to do except to be destroyed. So at some point, that's what's going to happen. I mean, God is patient. I said this before. I mean, we see wickedness all around us. Okay? We see it all around us. There are, I mean, just in the last couple of days, we've seen what was supposedly a billionaire in Sam Bankman-Fried had a successful, supposedly, exchange where he was handling the trades for cryptocurrency. You would think that this would be an easy business, that customers trade, he makes money off of the trades, and it would be a pretty simple business. Turns out he's in the whole billions of dollars, and he can't pay back investors. A rich person, they say he's worth billions, or was worth billions, was being untruthful about money. He didn't even need it. He was a billionaire. I mean, you think like, this kind of wickedness, why did it last so long? But ultimately what happened? Ultimately, he's getting, I don't know what's going to happen to him, but he's most likely going to go to jail. I mean, God is patient. God waits, but there's a limit. There is a limit. And once you pass that limit and now you've become completely useless, that's it. It's so important to go back to God, to confess sins, to stop whatever the sin was, and walk in His righteousness. Because at the end, that is what God is seeking from us. It's not just about our words. It's not, just saying, and I pray in Jesus' name. Okay. And then? You pray in Jesus' name, but you still sin? What is that going to do for you? What is that going to do for your salvation? What's that going to do for my salvation? Nothing. You can say, Lord, Lord, all you want. Remember the story of the goats and the sheep. Lord, did not we cast out demons in your name? Get away from me, you evildoers. I knew you not. I never knew you. Evildoers. They're casting out demons in Yeshua's name. Yet Yeshua says, I never knew you. Why is that? Because they're not righteous. They've got the words. They sound like Christians. They have the words, but are they? Apparently they're not, because the Lord said that they're not. If they were, the Lord would have taken them in, but He didn't. He said, I never even knew you. I mean, this is stuff that is pretty clear from the very first pages of the Bible. God is after righteousness. Of course He wants you to believe in the Lord Yeshua Christ, because that is the only way we're going to get to heaven, because even a sin loses the right to see God. One sin, one lie. That's it. The blood of the Lord Yeshua Christ is the sacrifice that we accept, and we walk after Him. We bear our cross, and we walk after Him. That means we are going to do our absolute best to be as righteous as we absolutely can be. And when we fall short, we have to ask for mercy and correct that mistake and become more and more righteous, become more and more sanctified as we get older in our walk. That's what the plan is. It's that simple. If we do that, we get to see God when our time comes. Until next time, God bless you and your families.